Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another class overview in the Legion Alpha. This time we're going to be going over Unholy Death Knight. I actually got some pretty cool things here. I'm really excited about it. I actually might be thinking about making this one of my first salts. But first of all, we'll kind of go through the spells and just kind of see what they got. First and foremost, we got the Anti-Magic Shell. It is a 1-minute cooldown. Surround yourself in the anti-magic shell for 10 seconds, absorbing 107,000 magic damage and preventing application of harmful magic effects. Damage absorbed generates runic power. Same as it always is. Army of the Dead. Costs 3 runes. Summons a legion of ghouls over 4 seconds who will fight for you for 40 seconds, swarming the area, fighting anything they can. Next is Chains of Ice. Shackles the target in frozen chains, reducing movement speed by 70% for 8 seconds. Costs 1 rune. Control Undead. Costs 1 rune. 1.2 second cast. Dominates the target undead creature up to 101, forcing it to do your bidding for 5 minutes. Dark Arbiter. That is talent. Basically replaces your gargoyle, but we'll go over it in a few. Your Dark Command is your taunt, 8-second cooldown, commands the target to taunt you. Dark Transformation is one of your main cooldowns for DPS, transforms your ghoul into a powerful undead monstrosity for 20 seconds. The ghoul's abilities are empowered with to take on new functions while transformed. Transformation is active. Death and Decay costs 1 rune, 30-second cooldown, corrupts the targeted ground, causing 10,000 shadow damage over 10 seconds to the targets that remain within the area. While you remain within the area, your Scourge Strike will hit all targets near the target. Will hit all enemies near the target. So that is kind of a new cool feature. I guess it helps out your AoE capabilities. And Death Coil is your main spender of your runic power. It does cost 30 runic power, fires a blast of unholy energy at the target, dealing 5,000 shadow damage to the enemy and restoring 10 energy to the ghoul. So this kind of helps out your little companion gain some more energy to do some of his spells, which will really help out when Dark Transformation comes active. Next one is Death Gate, returns you to Ebb and Hold, so you can do rune forging and all that. Next one, Death Grip, harness the energy that surrounds and binds all matter, drawing the target towards you with a 25-second cooldown and longer taunts, so that's good to know. There's Death Strike, basically your active mitigation, does restore back some life, 7% life, and does about 10,000 physical damage. So that is kind of your oh crap button. Your Festering Strike, this is new, kind of revamped. It does cost 2 runes. Just so you guys know, there are no such things as like frost runes, unholy runes, and blood runes. They are all now one type of rune. They're all death runes. So Festering Strike does cost 2 runes, deals 30,000 damage, and infects the target with 2 to 4 festering wounds. Now, festering wounds is definitely going to be one of your main sources of damage, but it does place a little kind of a dot almost, little bubble on them that does explode for 4,000 shadow damage and generate 3 runic power. And we'll cover how to explode those in just a second. Icebound Fortitude Your main defensive cooldown, 3-minute cooldown, reduces all damage you take by 20%, and granting immunity to stun effects. So that's pretty nice. Mind Freeze, your interrupt 15-second cooldown, and interrupts of cast for 3 seconds afterwards. Outbreak is what you get your start out with dots. Costs 1 rune, deals 2,000 shadow damage, and surrounds the target, and basically, and all targets around as well. Gives them the Verdulent Plague. Now this plague is a disease that deals 11,000 shadow damage over 1 minute. It is a longer time because of one of our talents. It erupts when the target dies, dealing 3,000 shadow damage divided among nearby enemies, and has a 30% chance to erupt each time it deals damage. Path of Frost, same as always, allows you to walk over water. Raise Ally, basically your battle res. Raise Dead is raises Abomination. Fight for you, fight by your side. You can have a maximum of 1 Abomination at a time. It is a 1-minute cooldown. Rune Forging just rune forges your weapon, gives you extra abilities, so you don't have to enchant it. Now here's where the most of your rotation is, between Festering Strike and Scourge Strike. Scourge Strike does cost 1 rune, an Unholy Strike that deals 10,000 physical damage and 8,000 shadow damage, causing 1 Festering Wound to burst. Now when these Festering Wounds burst, they do 4,000 damage and generate some runic power. So definitely having those burst off all the time gives you enough runic power to be casting Death Coil, therefore giving your ghoul more energy, and kind of always synergizes like that. Now this is a new ability that was just added, Wraith Walk. It is a channeled ability, 1-minute cooldown. Sidestep into the Shadowlands, breaking roots, and increase your movement speed by 70% for 3 seconds. During this time, all movement impairing effects are suppressed, but you may not attack while this is active. It's kind of cool. If you're a fan of Heroes of the Storm, it does work like the Oryx, just a little bit. Now onto the passives. Now this passive, whenever you kill an enemy, it yields experience or honor. Your next death strike within 20 seconds is free, and its healing is increased by 100%. So farming lots of mobs, definitely have this proc out several times and just kind of even out all your death strikes. Next one is Death Advance. Increase your movement speed by 15%, pretty nice. Now your mastery is going to be increase all shadow damage done by 48%. Basically, you're going to be overall one of your best stats, since most of your damage is going to be shadow damage. But yeah, like Scourge Strike and basically all the Festering Runes popping off with your Plague. Yeah. On a Pale Horse, increases your mounted speed by 20%. Runic Corruption, you have a 1.25% chance per runic power spent to increase your rune regeneration rate by 100% for 3 seconds. Now this is nice when you're dumping all your runic power. It does give you those procs of having your runes come back faster. Now Shadowy Infusion is one of our talents. We'll go over in just a little. And Sudden Doom, your auto attacks have a chance to make your Death Coil cost no runic power. On to the talents. I'm still working with a bunch of these, so I'm not really sure the optimized way to use these, but this is what I'm using so far. The first one is All Will Serve. Passive, your Raise Dead spell summons an additional skeletal minion, and it is cooldown, it is removed. So it's kind of cool. You get 2 little pets walking around with you permanently. The skeletal minion This damage is going to scale a little bit better. Right now it's quite below your normal minion, so it doesn't do much. Next one is Bursting Sores. It's another passive. Your Festering Wounds do 50% more damage when they burst, and all enemies within 8 yards of your Festering Wound will suffer 800 shadow damage. It's kind of low, but I guess it kind of helps out with more AoE capabilities. Now this is the one I've been using. I'm not sure if it's the best one. Bursting Swords might be a little bit better, but basically your overall plague deals 50% more damage, or 50% damage faster, and lasts 200% longer. So that's why it does last up to 1 minute instead of the normal 30 seconds. It's kind of nice to just put that on and not have to worry about it for a whole minute. On the next tier of talents, we have Infected Claws. Your Ghoul's Claw attack has a 50% chance to cause Festering Wound on the target. So basically, instead of you having to always apply Festering Strike to get the Festering Wounds on, your pet kind of helps out in that. The next one is your Festering Strike. Now applies 2 to 6 instead of the 2 to 4 Festering Wounds. So when this procs 6, it is very beneficial, but it always has that chance to proc to 2. It's kind of unfortunate. But also kind of makes it a little bit fun because you don't know what you're going to get. Your rotation changes all the time. The next one is the Blighted Rune Weapon. It is a 1 minute cooldown. Your next 4 auto attacks infect your target with 2 Festering Wounds. So basically 8 wounds, additional 8 wounds with a 1 minute cooldown. This could be very good with kind of a runic power starved fights. We're not getting as much, but it kind of helps out with a little bursting phase. Next here we got Unholy Frenzy. When your Festering Wound bursts, your ghoul gains 100% increased attack speed for 2 seconds. Nice little passive. Next one is Castigator. It's a passive. Each Scourge Strike, critical strike, bursts 1 additional Festering Wound, and bursting a Festering Wound grants 2 additional runic power for a total of 5. So this basically works off your crit. If you have a high crit chance, this is definitely worth grabbing. But right now I think mine's like 19. It is 17%, so it's probably not worth picking up. Next one does replace Scourge Strike. It does cost 1 rune. It does 14,000 shadow damage, which is a little bit lower than our Scourge Strike because it does 10,000 physical and 8,000 shadow, and cause 1 wound to burst. But something to note here, Clawing Shadows is on a 30-yard range, so you no longer have to be up close and personal, but you kind of do have to be up close and personal for Festering Strike, so I'm not really sure how this is going to play that much. I guess it could be good for kiting and PvP or something like that after you got your Festering Strikes on. But the next tier we got Sludge Belcher. Your Raise Undead now summons an Abomination instead of a Ghoul with improved innate abilities. Now most of these abilities are basically like Hook, instead of your Ghoul jumping to a person. It does hurl a hook, pulling the target, and if the target is immune, the Abomination instead is pulled to the target. So it is just like a leap, but has the possibility of minor minions to be pulled towards you. Next one is Asphyxiate. It is a 2-minute cooldown. Channels the dark energies that lift the enemy target off the ground, crushing their throat and stunning them for 6 seconds until the channel is ended. It is a channeled spell now, so just be aware of that. It can be done while moving, but if you do another ability, it is kind of it is broken, and you do have to wait another 2 minutes to use it. Not as good as it was before, definitely. Deliberating Infestation. As a passive, enemies affected by Outbreak have a 50% reduced movement speed for 3 seconds. Outbreak is basically your initial dot. Don't really see a huge use of this. Does kind of work in Chains of Ice would be a lot better. I guess this could be good for slowing packs of enemies. Could be good for kiting and more PvE content, but let's see. Next one is basically your defensives. Spell Eater is a passive. Your anti-magic shell is 20% larger and lasts 5 seconds longer. Nice little passive. This one is kind of cool. Nice effect to it. We have Corpse Shield. There's a 1-minute cooldown for the next 10 seconds. 90% of the damage you take is transferred to your ghoul. Now, if your ghoul is slain while the spell is active, it cannot be resummoned for 30 seconds. Kind of a if you're taking a lot of damage, it does kind of suck, because then you don't get to use your ghoul, therefore not using like your direct transformation and losing out on a bunch of damage. But if you do use that at the right times, it can be very effective. Next one is Lingering Apparition. It's a 25-yard range, another passive. You do walk 30% faster during the Wraith Walk. The cooldown is reduced by 15% or 15 seconds. So it makes it a 45-second cooldown, and you travel a little bit faster in there. So nice little one. It would be better if they moved it 30 seconds. Would have fit in a little bit nicer, I think. But anyways, the next tier is more passives, of course. Shadow Infusion is a passive that dealing damage with Death Coil will decrease the cooldown of Dark Transformation by 2 seconds. Now, Dark Transformation is on a 1-minute cooldown already, and it basically empowers your ghoul for 20 seconds. You can almost have this, if you're generating a lot of runic power, active almost all the time. It is kind of a nice little. We are definitely not starved for runic power. Let's just say that. Now, Necrosis. This is the one I've been going back and forth on. But as another passive, dealing damage with a Death Coil causes your next Scourge Strike to deal 25% increased damage. So, ideal rotation is you'd want a Death Coil, Scourge Strike, Death Coil, Scourge Strike, and back and forth until you have no festering wounds on the target, and just kind of apply those back. Sometimes it's a little bit off just because you can't always generate that much runic power. So I do find myself doing 2 Scourge Strikes, then a Death Coil, and something like that. But I guess it depends on the fight. Now, Epidemic does cost 2 runes as an instant cast, and powers your plague, causing all infected enemies to instantly suffer 10,000 shadow damage. Nearby enemies suffer 2,000 shadow damage and are infected with plague. This is really good for AoE fights. Nice little burst right there. Plus, kind of spreads out your plague a little bit. Now the level 100 talents are pretty fun. You do have Dark Arbiter, basically summons a Valkyr to attack the target for 40 seconds. The Valkyr um, attacks will burst festering wounds. So when this is out, you're more focused on casting Festering Strike to apply those wounds, and to give you a little bit extra damage instead of just having a gargoyle sit there and just spam his little cast. The next one is Defile. It replaces Death and Decay. It does have a 30-second cooldown. Defiles the ground for 10 seconds. Every 1 second, enemies are standing in Defile and deals almost 3,000 for Shadow Frost damage to them, and grows in radius. And it increases your mastery by 49. Not sure why it's just 49, but we'll kind of see how they work those numbers out. While you remain in the Defile, your Scourge Strike will hit all enemies near the target. So just like in Death and Decay, nice for AoE building fights. Now this is the new interesting one. They did remove Soul Reaper from the basically cleave phase and did kind of rework it. It now costs 1 rune. It is a 45-second cooldown. Strikes the enemy for 12,000 physical damage and afflicting them with Soul Reaper for 5 seconds. Now bursting a festering wound on an enemy with Soul Reaper grants 3% haste and stacking up to 3 times. So basically you want to apply your festering wound, then apply Soul Reaper, then burst the Soul Reaper. So it does kind of give you that 10% haste, which is a little bit nice with kind of a fast-moving spec, especially with rune generation and getting your rune power up. I do think it is a little bit off right now. It doesn't always work like intended, but the idea behind it is pretty good. It does have a lower cooldown, so you can keep it up for a little bit actually. So definitely one for the rotation. Now we'll kind of check out the artifact weapon, Apocalypse. Now the main ability is instant cast. It is a 1.5 minute cooldown. For the next 15 seconds, your festering wounds burst. They also summon a member of your army of the dead. So basically, it kind of works in rotation a little bit differently than normal. We'll kind of check out some of the rotation. So obviously, you want to get some festering wounds on there, but you also want to keep your plague. Get a free proc. Apply some Scourge Strikes, pop those wounds. Now, say we have 7 stacks, we popped Apocalypse, and it did not pop any of those. Oh, there we go. It's kind of nice when you're popping a bunch of wounds. It does summon a bunch of ghouls for you, which is kind of cool. Gives you some extra damage. Make sure you have a bunch of wounds on the target, but make sure you don't actually run out of time. So, there's a kind of a neat gameplay into it. Definitely a fun spec. You have also Dark Transformation, gives you a little bit more abilities. Apply some wounds. Pop Arbiter. Basically have a huge army of stuff going on. Make sure your plague never falls down. Should be good at the rotation. Yeah, especially with Arbiter up, you do lose a bunch of wounds on it, but it is definitely a fun spec to play. But that's basically the main kind of rotation for the spec, at least I'm playing right now. It is a very new twist onto Unholy Death Knight. It is a lot of fun. And I can't kind of wait to see what they do next. And most of the other passives basically just increase the overall damage. Um, but yeah, we got some work to do with the relic slots to kind of see how those play. But I think it's overall a very fun spec. I can't wait to actually um, play it a little bit more. I did kind of want to play it on live more than I'm currently am, but I just haven't had enough time with it with all of my alts. But it is a fun spec. Definitely, I find a lot better than it currently is. Does sign as a little cookie cutter as it is now. But Legion, there's a bunch of cool new specs showing out, but this is definitely one of my top specs. But anyways, if we like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.